The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
Our reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, "There will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars, and on earth nations will be in disarray, perplexed by the roaring of the sea and the waves. People will die of fright, in anticipation of what is coming upon the world, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. But when these signs begin to happen, stand erect and raise your heads, because your redemption is at hand. Beware that your hearts do not become drowsy from carousing and drunkenness and the anxieties of daily life, and that day catch you by surprise like a trap. For that day will assault everyone who lives on the face of the earth. Be vigilant at all times, and pray that you have the strength to escape the tribulations that are imminent, and to stand before the Son of Man." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy liturgical New Year. Liturgical New Year. Yes, first Sunday of Advent begins a new liturgical year. And part of why the church has this wonderful rhythm of liturgical seasons, we mark days and feasts, etc., because it helps us appreciate that time is sacred. It's part of the mystery of creation and redemption and Christ's final victory over all forces of darkness and evil. In the ancient cultures, time was secular. It just be over and over again. Nothing new under the heavens. Israel is very unique. It's linear. It's going somewhere. And the Lord is Lord of time. But you and I tend to think of time as sacred. For many of us, there's just not enough time to get done what must get done. For some, it just goes by so quickly. 1 year has already passed since the last first Sunday of Advent. And for others, time can move very slowly. Will the school bell, or whatever sound we have these days, will it finally ring? Will 5 o'clock come around, if one still works until only 5 o'clock? Time can seem endless if it's filled with one lonely hour after another. So often time is seen more as enemy than friend. But actually, time is sacred. It is our friend. Strange categories. But once again, we're invited to embrace this understanding of time as we embark on a new liturgical year. There will be a time when there is no time. We call that eternity. But in the meantime, we live in time. And time is the place where and when we encounter God, meet God. It's the only place we can encounter God this side of death. Wherever God is, there's holiness. It's a holy place, a holy space, and God's everywhere. We meet God, or God reveals himself to us, in all that happens to us in time, from the moment of our conception to death, life's events, persons who come into and exit our lives, moments of triumph, gain, and joy, moments of defeat, loss, sadness. There's not a nanosecond where God's not there. So all of life's opportunities, what we call good, label good, what we label bad, can be opportunities to experience God's presence. He's not in the bad, but through the bad we can experience his presence. A Vincent Dwyer has written, quote, "Spirituality is the art of listening and responding to God as he reveals himself moment to moment." Now perhaps we might understand a bit better what Jesus is getting at when we hear in today's gospel, and it's been a bad morning, I read the wrong gospel, but it's okay. But in the right gospel, he says, be watchful, be alert. In other words, I'm coming into your life, watch for me. I'm coming. Not just at the end, but now I'm coming. Some examples of watching for God's presence in our lives might be waiting at a traffic light. Who of us loves to wait at traffic? Everyone who loves to wait at traffic lights, raise your hand. And of course, you got a late start, obviously. So there's the light. God's probably saying, Paul, why don't you practice patience? Okay? And maybe during that moment of practicing patience, God brings to mind a colleague you must deal with at work that always gives you some issues. You pray a blessing prayer for that colleague. That moment had become God entering your life saying, be patient, pray for somebody. Or back to the highway, you encounter a reckless driver who thinks he or she's on a ski slope navigating a slalom course as they weave in and out of traffic. Usually we get angry because they're putting our lives and other people's lives at risk. Perhaps at that moment, the Lord's inviting you to prayer again. Pray for that person, for his or her safety, for those around them. Perhaps they're struggling with a significant personal problem, a failing marriage, pending job loss, loved one who's seriously ill. Doesn't excuse behavior, but perhaps it's distracting them. Ask God to touch them in a way that will let them know how much he loves them. If not a wayward driver, put your own example of someone that's really giving you a hard time and causing you anger. What's the hole in that person's soul? And we all have them. So again, what can be normally irritation and anger could become a call to prayer for that person. That's God breaking in. You're drowning in things to get done, and a friend calls you who really needs to talk and not just chit-chat. And you're going, oh no, I got so much to do. Maybe God again is calling you, just give that person full attention and trust that he'll help you get done what needs to get done. You're driving through your neighborhood and enjoying how the Christmas lights brighten the darkness. That experience makes you reflect upon a time when God was light in your particular darkness. And you thank him for that. You receive a Christmas card from people. Sometimes, some you're just sort of connected with, others closer. And it reminds you of all these people and many more that God has brought into your life that have blessed you in some wonderful way. They've been a gift of God to you, and may many of them still be that. I'm just giving some examples of, that point to how God reveals himself or makes himself known in the ordinary experiences of life if we have eyes to see and ears to listen, and we are watching. We're alert. We're looking for God's presence in the struggle, in the anger, in the joy, whatever. He's there if we open our eyes and listen, don't open our ears. Now, I presume most of us, of course, God comes to us most wonderfully in the sacraments, especially Eucharist and reconciliation. All we have to do is come to him to be forgiven and come here to be nourished by living bread for the journey of life. Now, I presume most of us approach Christmas with mixed feelings. We enjoy the gathering of family and friends, the shared meals, the gift exchanges, but the time before Christmas, as we all know, but I'll say the obvious, has become very frantic and stressful with all the decorating and shopping and baking, what to give whom, wrapping presents, writing and sending Christmas cards. Do we still assemble toys? Planning and preparing for those holiday gatherings and meals, to name a few. We have busy lives, and Now we do more busy things in our busy lives. Can we live in an Advent expectation that the Lord will show his face in the midst of all this busyness? I think we can, if we're looking for it. If we heed his advice, be watchful, be alert. If we expect to find him, we will, because he's there, but especially in other people. Then we will rediscover that time is sacred and is our friend. So let's journey well through this Advent. Last night, with some good friends, went to St. Vincent's Basilica to experience the Messiah. It's local at Pittsburgh Festival Orchestra, small but good, and St. Vincent's Choir, which is students and local people. It was very good. Not the entire Messiah, but it was quite beautiful. And of course, the angels declare to the shepherds, the angel, in our translation, I bring you good news of great joy. Good news. We throw that word around all the time. Good news. Evangelion. Gospel. Good news. The kerygma. Another way. Good news. What is the good news? If you come to Discovering Christ, which begins January 11th, next year, you have an opportunity to discover the good news.